The battle had ended 3 hours ago, but smoke still rose from the crashed Valkorian warship, half buried in the canyon wall. Commander Jake Morris stood at the edge of the wreckage, his pulse rifle slung across his back, watching his team extract valuable technology from the hull. Earth needed every advantage it could get in this war, and scavenged alien tech had become their lifeline. "Sir, we found something," called out Private Davis from inside the ship. Jake climbed through the torn metal, his boots clanging against the deck plates. The interior was a mess of sparking cables and twisted infrastructure. Davis stood near what appeared to be a holding cell, its energy barrier flickering and dying. Inside, a figure slumped against the wall. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that shimmered like polished bronze. Her hair fell in dark waves past her shoulders, and her eyes glowed with an inner amber light. She wore armor that was clearly Valkorian make, but something about her was different. Her features were too human, too familiar, despite the obvious alien elements. "She's breathing," Davis said. "What do you want to do?" Jake studied the woman carefully. She was clearly a prisoner, not crew. The Valkorians were known for taking captives from conquered worlds to serve as soldiers in their endless expansion. This woman had probably been forced into service, just another victim of the Empire's brutal practices. "Get her out and secure her," Jake ordered. "We're taking her back to base." The woman stirred as they lifted her onto a stretcher. Her eyes opened slowly, focusing on Jake with surprising clarity. She said something in a language he didn't recognize, her voice rough but musical. Then her eyes closed again, and she fell unconscious. Back at Firebase Horizon, the medical team examined her thoroughly. Dr. Williams emerged from the examination room, shaking his head in amazement. "She's human," he said. "Well, mostly human. There are genetic modifications throughout her body, enhancements to strength, speed, reflexes. But her base genome is from Earth. How is that possible?" Jake asked. "The Valkorians must have taken her people centuries ago," Williams explained. "They've been modified, bred for war. But underneath all that engineering, she's one of us." When she woke, Jake was sitting beside her bed. She tensed immediately, eyes scanning for threats, muscles coiling despite her restraints. "Easy," Jake said, raising his hands. "You're safe. We're not going to hurt you." She stared at him for a long moment and spoke in that same flowing language. "I don't understand," Jake said. He pulled out a translation device, one of the few pieces of Valkorian tech they'd successfully reverse-engineered. "Try again." The woman repeated her words, and the device chirped. "Where am I? Why have you taken me?" "You were a prisoner on that ship," Jake said. "We freed you. I'm Jake Morris, commander of this firebase." "What's your name?" She hesitated, as if the question itself was foreign. "I am called Kira," she finally said. "Warrior of the 3rd Legion." "Not anymore," Jake said gently. "The war's over for you. You're free." Kira's expression suggested she didn't believe in freedom. Over the following weeks, Kira remained at the firebase. She refused to speak much, spending her time observing, learning, always watchful. Jake found himself drawn to her, curious about the life she'd led and the world she'd lost. He brought her books about Earth, showed her recordings of human culture, tried to help her remember what she'd been before the Valkorians took her. One evening, he found her on the observation deck, staring up at the stars. "Looking for home?" he asked. "I have no home," Kira said. "My people were taken so long ago that even our world's name is forgotten. We exist only to fight. You don't have to fight anymore." She turned to him, her amber eyes intense. "What else is there?" "Fighting is all I know. All I am." Jake stepped closer. "Then learn something new. Stay here. Learn what it means to live instead of just survive. Why do you care? Kira asked. I was your enemy. You were never my enemy, Jake said. You were a prisoner forced to fight someone else's war. There's a difference. Something shifted in Kira's expression, a crack in the warrior's mask. You are strange, Jake Morris. Your people are strange. You fight fiercely, but show mercy. You capture enemies and offer them freedom. The Valkorians would never do such things. We're not the Valkorians, Jake said simply. As months passed, Kira began to change. She trained with the human soldiers, sharing her knowledge of Valkorian tactics while learning Earth's fighting styles. She studied human history, culture, art. She laughed for the first time when Private Davis showed her an old comedy recording. She asked endless questions about Earth, about the planet she'd never seen, but from which her ancestors had come. And slowly, carefully, she and Jake grew closer. It started with conversations that stretched late into the night, then walks around the firebase perimeter, talking about everything and nothing. Jake found himself watching for her in crowds, seeking her opinion, wanting to share things with her. Kira, for her part, seemed to orbit around him, drawn by something she couldn't quite name. I do not understand this feeling, she confessed one night. They sat together in the mess hall after everyone else had gone to sleep. Among my people, we did not have such things. We were bred and trained and sent to fight. There was no time for anything else. What feeling? Jake asked, though he thought he knew. This warmth, Kira said, touching her chest. When I see you, when you speak to me, when you look at me as if I am more than just a weapon. Jake reached across the table and took her hand. Her skin was warm, her grip strong but gentle. You are more than a weapon, Kira. You're a person. You're extraordinary. She looked at their joined hands as if seeing something miraculous. I think I am beginning to understand what it means to live, she said softly. 6 months after her rescue, the Valkorian threat ended. Their empire collapsed from within, torn apart by rebellion from the countless species they'd enslaved. Earth celebrated, but Jake felt strangely hollow. With the war over, there was no reason for Kira to stay at the firebase. She was free to go anywhere, do anything. He found her packing her few belongings. You're leaving? He asked, unable to keep the disappointment from his voice. Kira looked up at him. I thought I should. The war is over. You do not need me anymore. That's not true, Jake said quickly. I need you, not as a soldier or a tactical advisor. I need you because I love you. The words hung in the air between them. Kira set down what she was holding and crossed to him. She was taller, but she looked up at him as if he were the larger presence. I do not know what love is, she said. But if it is this feeling that makes me want to stay near you, to share your joys and sorrows, to build something together rather than destroy, then perhaps I love you too. Jake pulled her close, and she wrapped her arms around him with carefully controlled strength. Stay, he whispered. Not as a captive, not as an obligation. Stay because you want to. I do want to, Kira said. You gave me freedom, Jake Morris. Now I choose to share that freedom with you. They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony at the firebase. Kira wore a simple dress that she'd chosen herself, delighting in the freedom to pick her own clothes, her own path. Jake stood beside her in his dress uniform. Grinning like a fool, Dr. Williams officiated, reading from a text that Kira had helped select, mixing Earth traditions with what few customs she remembered from her own people. When they exchanged vows, Kira spoke in her native tongue first, then in English. You found me in darkness and brought me to light, she said. You saw me as a person when I saw myself only as a weapon. You gave me freedom and taught me how to use it. I vow to stand beside you, to share your burdens, to celebrate your joys, and to build a life that honors the gift you have given me. Jake's own vows were simpler, but no less heartfelt. I promise to see you always as you truly are, to support your growth, to respect your strength, and to love you without condition. As they kissed, the assembled soldiers cheered. Kira laughed, a sound of pure joy that would have been impossible 6 months ago. They built a life together in the years that followed. Kira became an instructor, teaching combat skills to new recruits, while also studying human culture and history. She wrote a book about her experiences that became required reading at military academies. She advocated tirelessly for other rescued Valkorian prisoners, helping them adjust to freedom, just as Jake had helped her. And every night, she and Jake would sit together and talk about the future they were building, one day at a time. Do you ever regret it? Jake asked her once. Staying with me instead of searching for your original people? Kira smiled and took his hand. You are my people, she said. You and everyone here who chose to see me as family rather than enemy. That is worth more than any distant connection to a forgotten past. She leaned against him, content in a way she'd never imagined possible. She had been a captive, then a prisoner, then free. Now she was something more precious still. She was loved, and she loved in return. In the end, that was the greatest victory of all.